Right. So, I mean, that was a significant debate that we got into between the First Lady and the Bishop over here on this side of the table about how Dak broke off a bag and yet is still not able to elevate his teammates. When we watched the Cowboys and they got obliterated on Sunday night, how much of it is reasonable to lay at the feet of the quarterback?
I mean, I think you have to lay at the feet of the quarterback, a lot of it, and a lot of it has to go to the feet of the offensive coordinator who fired a great, young, innovative offensive coordinator and bringing back, like I said again, bringing back some of these old plays, no imagination, no creativity, no innovation. And so, like, they're married together, and I think they're going to rise or fall together as well. Oddly enough, you think calling this the More Bowl, but also these are two head coaches that's going to be in this matchup that I think whichever team doesn't win, coach could be put on alert, right? Because you understand that the roster is good rosters, but these coaches aren't being force multipliers, as Mike Tannenbaum always likes to say.
Yeah, again, that's Brandon Staley in L.A., but let's deal with Dallas for a moment here. And Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer is the offensive coordinator now. They let Kellen Moore go, and on he goes to the Chargers. But the question is this. Dan Orlovsky described their offense, the Cowboys' offense, as the worst thing you can be, which is predictable.
Right.
Everyone sees it coming. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. With the lack of motions and shifts and formations, it's not a lot of things that put a lot of stress on a defense. Whenever you don't do those things, and I'm able to communicate as a defender, understanding that I don't have to be tricked with all this trickeration, right? All this stuff that Miami does, mess with your eyes, the late motions and all that stuff, that forces you to communicate post and pre-snap.
Dan Graziano, sometimes we talk about Jerry Jones like he's George Steinbrenner because they are so high profile and so bombastic and so quotable. But the reality is, the one thing that Jerry is not usually is reactionary. Like George would he would fire people like every 10 minutes. Jerry Jones does not make big, crazy moves despite what we think of him. Is there a scenario where you could see this thing going sideways enough this season? We know he's got Dan Quinn in the building, and we've talked a lot about that, and the world loves him. Is there a scenario where if this thing continues like this, you could see a change in season in Dallas?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No chance.
No, because he did that once. Was it Wade Phillips that he let go in season? And he's spoken about how he regrets that. He had Jason Garrett ready to go, and they thought Jason was a great coaching prospect that they were ready to give the job to. So, no, I don't think in season. I think McCarthy gets the season. If they were to fall apart and miss the playoffs, I think all bets are kind of off at that point. But no, I think I agree with you. I covered Steinbrenner. It's different, and Jerry Jones, I think, will give him at least the year.
I mean, Mike, I feel like there's some heat here. Like, listen to what Bart just said. This offense has gotten worse. That's not debatable. I don't care what the stats say, anything. You watch this team play. Whenever they need their offense to play big, they don't win. It's that simple.
Yeah, but let me push back here, because this time of year you say, how do we improve? And I understand the scheme could be better. Agreed. However, we've seen a lot of injuries and teams are scrambling. How Trayvon Diggs or all these other guys getting hurt, Jalen Ramsey, they have solutions, specifically Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks only has 9 catches for 73 yards. And as Hembo reminded me, so far, only 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions to the Cowboy wide receivers. Their solutions are there. They got to get the ball to Brandon Cooks.
But you're making my point, I feel like, for me. Whose fault is that?
Well, it's a combination of both McCarthy and obviously Dak. But to me, if you could get them the ball, they could actually make the plays they need to be made.
Brandon Cook has been traded for more first-round draft picks than anybody in the history of sports.
Right.
And every team that he's going to has found a way to get 1,000 yards out of him. Yet the Cowboys have found a way to make him invisible. That is something that is on the coordinator and on the head coach. You have to make a conscious effort to get him involved in the game, and they haven't been able to do that. They can't even get their main guy, CeeDee Lamb, the ball. I think they're really missing the fact that they let Dalton Schultz go, and that's largely because they had to pay Dak Prescott, and those credit card bills are coming due.
They're having this weird season with the offense, right? Because there's been 3 games where they kind of didn't need it. Right? The Giants game, the Jets game, the Patriots game, they're scoring on defense. They're up big early. The pass rush can just go crazy, and then the offenses just don't mess it up. And then the 2 games where they needed Dak and the offense to do something, they couldn't do it, right? The loss to Arizona, and then obviously the debacle last week to San Francisco. So they aren't in any kind of offensive rhythm, and that's no excuse. But the fact of the matter is I don't think we've seen this offense operate the way that they set it up and that they intend it to. I think the Chargers offer them that opportunity on Monday night. The Chargers have they have big-time names on defense and played like it, right? So I think there will be opportunities to take advantage of that. I think it'll be a close enough game that you won't be in a situation like they were in against those other teams that we just named, where they went up big early and really just asked Dak not to do anything wrong.
Quick final word.
Well, the reality is that they're looking at a wild card, and if they are a wild card, they're either going to face Philadelphia or San Francisco in the first round, which we know what that story ends like. And what are you going to say with a quarterback that you paid a lot of money that you get the same result? You can get a lot of guys there. Trey Lance is there for a reason, and they may have to tear it down. Well, they may have to tear it down and build a different way with a cheap quarterback.
Super quick.
I'm with Dominique Foxworth. He's a good player, and Trey Lance is not Dak Prescott.
I didn't say that.
The only good news for Dallas is it's super early. They've got 3 months to get this thing figured out. We'll see if they will. The Ravens have been the subject of a lot of interesting conversation after they just gave another game away this past weekend, to the dismay of Bart Scott and the delight of Ryan Clark. Candidly, the Ravens have won all 5 games they've played this year. They just won 2 of them for the other team.
Right.
So as we watch this thing right now, I think everyone's going to be fascinated. RC, I want to see your face. Cindy, leave him up when Bart makes his suggestion. What is your brilliant idea of what the Ravens should do now?
I think they should call Big Blue and say, I'll take Saquon for a second-round draft pick. I'm not worried about what his contract is and the fact that he doesn't have a long-term contract. I think this would be equivalent to what happened last year when you talk about San Francisco trading for McCaffrey. I think you bring Saquon Barkley in that backfield. Justin Hill's been fumbled. They were already in contracts with J.K. Dobbins for a long-term deal, so that means they're willing to pay the money for the position. Jonathan Taylor just set the market at $14 million. Trade for Saquon Barkley, and I think that puts fear in Kansas City and Cincinnati.
What do you think, RC, of an offense that so far seems to be a little slow out of the gates, so much attention? Bart's calling for the big move. I see you mulling it over. What do you think?
I never think adding a very good player or a talented player or a running back with transcendent talent at the position is a bad decision. I don't believe that. I don't know if you can get a deal done either, and I'm not necessarily sure that addresses the problem that the Baltimore Ravens are having offensively. He's not going to play slot receiver and catch the football that Nelson Aguilar dropped. You're not going to move him to number 1 and allow him to run the slant or the back line in the end zone and replace Rashard Bateman. He's not going to be the deep crosser in the middle early in the game or the guy that hooks when Zay Flowers drops the football, or maybe the crosser that Mark Andrews drop of the ball he hops in front of Zay Flowers to catch in the end zone that goes off of his hands. They didn't lose that game because they couldn't run the football. They lost that game because they couldn't catch the football. This is a team that is still searching for an identity. Now, does adding Saquon Barkley, if we believe Todd Monken is all the things we built him up to be in the offseason, does that give him another chess piece to get the football out of Lamar Jackson's hands and find some explosivity in the offense? Absolutely. But I still don't think that one move fixes the issues that are going on with the Baltimore Ravens, which is more pass game and production by the wide receiver and Lamar Jackson protecting the football in the most important moments of the game.
Cindy, put the picks up. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, well, Lamar Jackson also was completing over 70%, the highest win completion percentage of his career. But you talk about what Saquon Barkley does is the same thing that CMC did for San Francisco. It creates space, right? And listen, that was an outlier, right? Mark Andrews is a sure-handed catch type of guy, and he creates explosiveness in the backfield that they lost with J.K. Dobbins and gives them a home run hitter and a guy that can carry the ball and take over a game. And also, he's a tremendous receiver of the football as well.
Look, I like the idea. Let's move on from that particular part of the idea because it doesn't seem particularly likely. I'm always all for trading somebody. Yeah. That said, in a world in which they don't wind up getting Saquon Barkley or anybody else, it feels like this offense, you could give a million reasons. This one's been hurt. That one's been hurt. OBJ doesn't look quite like himself. Yeah. All the drops this week. How confident are you that by some point this year, this offense will look markedly better than it has in years past?
Very confident. Similar to what RC said, like they're getting open. The scheme looks better. It looks different. And maybe it's Jerry Jeudy. You go out and get another receiver. They were wrong on OBJ. I was too. He's a diminished skill athlete. Go get another receiver. They're not going to have the drops they've had. That will certainly correct itself. I actually think Saquon Barkley, to me, is a great idea, Bart. He has 256 catches in his career. He does give them another element. I think this team is there at the end because they can fix their mistakes.
Roz, jump in.
Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, except the Giants don't want to trade him. He's hurt. The Ravens don't have the cap space, and they didn't want to give J.K. Dobbins a contract. So look, I don't think that's the move. I don't think that's realistic. I think the Ravens offense is going to be okay. Lamar Jackson is playing well. He's hitting these guys in the hands. I think there were always going to be growing pains. It made total sense for there to be growing pains. I sat here and asked this question and was told by extremely knowledgeable and experienced football people, no, it's going to be great, Monken, space, whatever. It's got to be growing pains. There have to be. It's the first time Lamar Jackson's had to learn a new offense since he got into the league. The receivers are all new to the scheme. Zay Flowers is a rookie. I think it'll be fine. I think they'll be okay.
Always money. And listen, that $18 million from OBJ has fallen off the books next year. It is always money.
We'll see. Look, I mean, a trade, maybe they can, maybe they can't. They need to put it together with what they've got so far. It looks exactly like it's always looked. It's Lamar and a wing and a prayer.